What do you believe is possible for yourself, for your life? Not anyone else's. I'm talking about your life. What do you expect to happen every day that you wake up? What do you expect to happen in your life? What do you expect to receive in your life? What do you expect to do in your life? Have you ever taken the time to answer those questions? If you haven't, this is going to be the first time for you to do it. This is the perfect opportunity for you to do it. So let's get into this video. Listen, all of those questions, 4 questions I just gave you, all of those questions can be answered by what you allow yourself to speak. All of those questions can be answered, and you'll know how you're answering them by what you allow yourself to say about yourself in your own life. What are you declaring? Okay. The answers to these questions are also evidence by what you allow yourself to say, what you allow yourself to imagine, and what you allow yourself to desire. Okay. So here's what I want to start off with first. We come into this life with a knowing. Knowing is beyond belief. Knowing has nothing to do with belief. Knowing has nothing to do with faith. A knowing is a sense that sometimes you cannot articulate, and you find yourself just saying, I know this is for me. I know this is happening for me. You do not need evidence when you know. That type of existence is inherent to us. That is not something that we have ever had to work for. Okay. So what happens is, as we start to grow in this life, we get more birthdays, we start to be exposed to societal programming, familial programming, educational programming, of course, religious programming. Then that knowing gets diminished to belief, then hope, and then a fading wish. Okay? So, when it gets diminished to a belief, like I said, you continue to move on in life, okay? And then as you're given these constructs, you're given these so-called ways of doing things, and you're given these so-called step-by-step ways to do things, you become programmed to think that certain things that can happen in your life have to be done only in a certain way. That is linear thinking. Having a knowing means that you are existing on a quantum level. You are existing with quantum consciousness, not linear. Quantum consciousness is your natural state of being. You come here and you learn to be a linear thinker. You come here to learn, or you came here and you learn to be a limited thinker. Sometimes that's hard to hear that, okay? It is hard to hear. Well, not sometimes. It can be challenging to hear that. Because when your eyes start to awaken or to open up, you start to see all the ways in your life where you have limited yourself because of programming. And when you start to see how you have operated, it's important not to acknowledge the way that you have operated from programming, not to judge, but to acknowledge, okay, that was the consciousness that I slipped into, but now I am remembering my quantum existence. I wanted to give you that side note there. Okay, so, we go from knowing to belief to hope to wish. And by the time we're adults, it happens very fast. It is a downward progression. It happens very fast. So by the time that we are adults, seasoned adults, we have all of these soul expressions that are almost like, and as I'm talking, I see this huge cauldron with all of these wonderful seasonings in it that are not being stirred. They're just sitting, waiting to be utilized. But because of our programming, we have forgotten our substance. In our cauldron, which is this body, we have forgotten to stir up all of those beautiful substances, the spices, the spice of life, the vibrancy that we have. That is part of what makes up our soul. That is part of what is inherent to our soul. Okay. I'm helping you, okay, to remember. All right. That's what we're doing in this video. So I'm going to repeat something because I want to make sure I'm looking at my notes and I want to make sure I stay on track. The progression downhill from knowing to wishing, it has negative effects on our expectations from our lives. All right. If you have limited expectations, that is going to come out in how you express yourself, in what you do, and in what you say. So, because we have these deep soul desires, right, that we came into this life with, those desires don't go away, like I said. But what happens is those desires, they get buried, they get covered up by programming. It's almost like if you have a symphony. No, that's I won't even use that example. But it's almost like the desires, they get drowned out by all this programming. It's like a foghorn. Okay, you have this beautiful symphony. I will use a symphony example. So you're sitting listening to this beautiful symphony, and all of a sudden you hear this foghorn. Wouldn't that disrupt and take your attention away from this beautiful symphony that you have always had access to? The foghorn is programming. The symphony is your soul aligned desires that are already there. It's your inherent way of being. That's how I want you to look at that. So here's another thing that happens. So over time, we learn to be accommodating. We learn to fall in line. Because remember, because we forgot that we're sovereign beings, you learn how to walk in line. You learn how to be linear, correct? So you learn not to stand out. You learn to accept tradition. And when I mean tradition, we can apply that to everything. And specifically, you already know I'm going to say with tradition, I'm always going to use religious tradition because that's what I talk about on this channel is breaking out of religious dogma, really for real, having that freedom upgrade in your life to not just physically walk away, but to really get the dogma out of your nervous system so that you can exist as the magical being that you are fully with full confidence. Okay. So you learn to accept tradition, even when that tradition, you know that it is intuitively not aligned for you. It feels off to you. But because, again, you learn to walk in a line, you learn to not rock the boat, not even tip the boat, you choose the tradition. You choose the standard way of thinking. Also, many times always your desires will not fall in line into any construct. You ever had a beautiful image, or a beautiful thought at a red light, or maybe you were cooking, doing the most mundane thing, and it just kind of hit you like, oh, wouldn't it be beautiful to be able to live my life in this way? That's not something that was forced. That's something that's coming from your soul. That is your soul calling you, saying, hey, this existence is over here. This possibility is here. It's already done, so you bring it in. But because that vision, that image goes outside of what is deemed to be realistic within a construct, you dismiss it. Or you think you dismiss it. You think you're pushing it away, but really it doesn't go away. So let's keep going. So we learn to accept standard ways of doing things, even when our natural intuition, again, that is something that you don't have to find, even when your intuition is saying, no, this is not the way. This is not it for you. Yeah, everyone around you has done it this way, but for you, this is not the way. So then what happens? So then, I just said this, those desires, they'll keep staring at you. You'll keep following tradition. Those desires will keep staring at you when you wake up, when you go to sleep, in your daily living activities, brushing your teeth, taking a shower. Those soul aligned images are still there. So, but programming has told you what to expect, even when that program expectation is completely different from what your soul has showed you. All right? I'm going to say this again. What is soul aligned for you? It's not going to fit into any type of strategy. It is not going to fit into any type of tradition. It's not going to fit. It is not going to fit. You are a trailblazer. So let's go back to those 4 questions. I'm going to say those again. What do you expect to happen? What do you expect to receive? What do you expect to have? And what do you expect to do? Let me say it again. What do you expect to happen in your life? What do you expect to receive in your life? What do you expect to have in your life? And what do you expect to do in your life? I want you, I'm going to do a second part of this video. What I want you to do is just answer the questions. Just see what comes up. Don't try and force anything. Don't try and force an answer. Even if the answer is, I don't know. But I don't think that's the case. If you're watching this and you made it to 13 minutes and 33 seconds, I know you have the answer. Of course you do, because the answer is in you. So take the time. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out, only if you want it to be. Gift yourself 5 or 10 minutes. And I want you to go through those questions. Don't censor yourself. Just go through, and I want you to pay attention to how your body feels as you're writing out the answers. All right. So I want you to come back for the next video for the second part of this. All right. I am Tamara Tamu. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel. If you're new here, like and subscribe the video. And in the comments, if you feel so inclined, provide one of the answers to those questions. All right. Until next time, be sovereign.